During my university years, I was always involved in social media. After graduating, I didn't go out to work. I set up a studio and started working from home. But after staying home for 2 months, my brother's wife, Patricia, began making my life difficult. I've never seen someone graduate and stay at home, living off their parents. Aren't you ashamed? I ignored her, but she kept trying to call me out by name. Lucia, if you want to stay here, fine. Starting next month, rent is $1,500, food is $2,000, and services are paid separately. I laughed at the situation. She lived off my parents and yet dared to act as if she were above me. One day, after returning from a trip, I found all my things tossed haphazardly in the yard. Patricia walked out and looked at me with disdain. I looked at my scattered belongings, including a vintage lamp I had collected so carefully. Now it was broken. I shouted, "Mom, who threw my things out here?" My mom, Marta, came rushing down from the second floor when she saw me in the yard. "Lucia, no one threw your things out." I frowned, confused by what I was seeing. If no one threw my things out, then what is this? They were perfectly fine in my room. Why are they here, Sue? Marta looked at the house and then at me, saying no one threw them out. We just needed to free up a room. Free up a room? My room? Marta looked away and nodded, somewhat reluctantly. Patricia's sister is coming to study in this city. She won't stay in the dorm. She'll stay with us? I laughed in disbelief. So, you're clearing out my room for her? Marta stayed silent, not saying a word. I was trembling with anger. Seeing my mother behave that way, I tried to hold back my frustration. There's another room. Why can't she stay there? Why do you have to push me out? Marta just lowered her head, twisting the hem of her dress. It was as if I were the one being unreasonable, as if she were the victim, not me. Patricia, standing by the door, sniffled sarcastically, saying, "I've never seen someone graduate and stay home, living off their parents. Aren't you ashamed?" I bit my tongue and didn't respond. She wasn't really my sister. Resolving conflicts with her was difficult. When she saw I was ignoring her, she shouted aggressively, "Lucia, I'm talking to you. If you want to stay here, fine." Starting next month, rent is $1,500, food is $2,000, and services are charged separately. I had heard her sarcasm so many times that I usually didn't care, but this time, she had the audacity to point her finger at me and speak directly. "Am I living off you? Am I eating your food or using your things? What right do you have to criticize me?" Since marrying into the family, Patricia hadn't worked a single day. My brother, Fernando, a man of little determination, couldn't hold a job for more than 3 months. He always complained about coworkers or bosses. Using the excuse of wanting to cleanse the work environment, he quit so many times that no one would hire him anymore. Now, the two of them depended almost entirely on my parents' support. And where did my parents' money come from? It wasn't all thanks to me, was it? Maybe Patricia didn't know, but Fernando saw me give money to Marta many times and even joked about my filial piety. I wanted harmony in the family because they were my family. I didn't complain when my parents used my money to support Fernando and Patricia. I bought a house and renovated it. They moved in there with Fernando, and I didn't say anything. They forgot this was my house. After living here for a few years, they forgot that I was supporting this family. Patricia looked at me with contempt, as if my indignation was ridiculous to her. She looked at my mother and said sarcastically, "Marta, say something. Wasn't this a decision that the whole family agreed on? Why does it seem like I'm the only villain here?" The whole family agreed on this decision. On a hot summer afternoon, under the scorching sun, I felt like I had fallen into an icy pit. The whole family agreed on this decision? I looked at Marta in disbelief. Is it true? Did the whole family agree on this? Am I not part of this family? Marta avoided my gaze, and I suddenly felt overwhelmed, shouting, "Answer me!" Startled by my outburst, my mother looked up with tears in her eyes. Maybe the noise outside was already too loud because my father, Raul, and my brother Fernando finally came out of the house. "What's going on, Lucia? You're out of control. Why are you yelling at your mothers?" Raul and Fernando spoke in unison. I looked at them and asked, Patricia said the whole family decided to kick me out. Is that true? If I don't leave, do I have to pay rent and utilities every month? Raul sighed and said, it's not quite like that. Patricia's sister is only going to stay for a few days, so we suggested that you rent a place for a while. We're not kicking you out. Why would I need to rent a place? Even if her sister wants to stay, there's another room.
You could arrange something.
It has to be my room, and everyone decided this together. Am I not part of this family? Today, I need a clear answer from you. Someone threw my things out.
Who did that?
Return everything immediately. The designer lamp that was broken cost $18,000. Whoever broke it should give me the money now. After I finished speaking, Patricia exploded at hearing my words. You always eat and drink for free and take our money to travel, but you spent $18,000 on a broken lamp. I looked at her and laughed softly. Eating and drinking for free, taking your money to travel. Your money? Patricia said, Raul and Marta's money is our money. Have you ever seen me ask them for money? Ask them if I've ever asked for money to travel. Since I started college, have I ever taken a cent from this family's? Patricia looked confused. I looked at Raul and Marta, questioning them firmly. Come on, tell her. Have I ever asked you for money? Marta kept her head down, saying nothing. Raul frowned with a look that said, Lucia, when did you become so aggressive? I laughed in frustration. Don't change the subject. Just answer. Have I ever asked you for money? Fernando's face also turned serious. He reprimanded me. Lucia, is this how you talk to your parents? I didn't argue with him. I held Marta's arm. She looked at me. I looked her in the eyes and asked, since I started college, have I ever asked you and Dad for a single cent? She shook her head fervently, tears streaming down her face. No, you haven't. I turned to Patricia, raising an eyebrow. Did you hear that? Not a single cent. Patricia looked stunned, perhaps because I sounded so confident, or perhaps because she heard Marta admit it. She still seemed reluctant to believe it and wanted to say something else, but Fernando interrupted her. Enough. He looked at her angrily, and she closed her mouth. At this point, I knew there was no point in continuing the argument. I was destined to leave this family, but this was my house. Why should I leave? Put my things back in my room and return everything to its original state. I'll pretend this never happened. Everyone lowered their heads, saying nothing. I sneered. My parents had always favored Fernando, always thinking of him first when it came to good food and fun things. When I was a child, being able to eat what he left behind was already a big privilege for me. Later, when I started earning money in college, they seemed to like me a little more. Marta became more affectionate, and Raul remembered what I liked to eat. I thought those childhood grievances would be eased now that I was also a beloved daughter to my parents. But today, I realized they hadn't changed. They still preferred Fernando.
Why were they good to me?
Maybe it was because I could make money, buy houses and cars, and support the family. To them, I was just a good source of income. While we were at that standstill, a young girl in a white dress suddenly appeared at the door. She must have been around 17 or 18, radiating brightness. Marta rushed to open the door and greeted her warmly. Clara, you've arrived?
Come in.
You must be tired from the trip. Clara smiled and replied, Hello, Aunt Sanchez. It's all good. The train is much faster now. As Marta took her luggage and Patricia joined in, I just watched. They gathered around the young girl, welcoming her enthusiastically. From my room, I heard Marta say, This will be your room from now on. Make yourself at home. Clara thanked her cheerfully, complimenting Marta's kindness. Meanwhile, I was alone, under the scorching sun, with no one noticing my presence. In this family, there was no place for me anymore. They treated a stranger with more warmth than they had ever shown me. I turned and left the house, heading to the bank to print my transaction records from the past few years. Each transaction was documented. I returned home with the statements in hand. It was already night, and they were happily dining together. The moment I walked in, the lively conversation stopped abruptly, as if silence had taken over. Clara looked at me and said, You must be Lucia. Come have dinner with us. I didn't want to take anything out on the innocent girl, so I replied politely, "I've already eaten." Then I turned to Raul and Marta. "Dad, Mom, I just went to the bank and printed all my transaction records from the past few years. After dinner, let's review them together. Let's see how much money I transferred to you over the years. Let's also see how much remains now and where the money went. Let's clear up all the accounts from these years." When I walked in with the bank records in hand, the silence in the room was deafening. My parents, my brother, and Patricia were around the table with plates still warm. Clara, the special guest, was sitting in my place, laughing, as if I were the intruder at that moment. That laughter stabbed me in the chest. I was no longer in my own home. I was a stranger watching my family treat someone else with the warmth and respect I had never received. I took a deep breath, controlling the mix of anger and disappointment burning inside me, and moved forward, resolute. With the papers in hand, I positioned myself in front of the table. My father tried to stay calm, but his discomfort was obvious. "What are you doing, Lucia?" he asked, but my gaze didn't waver for a second. I placed the bank statements on the table, spreading the sheets in front of each of them. "I want everyone here to see exactly how much I've contributed to this house over the past few years," I said, my voice steady, but tinged with bitterness. They began flipping through the pages, one by one, and with each page turned, Patricia's face grew paler. Fernando avoided looking, unable to face the truth. My mother looked down, holding back tears, while my father pressed his lips together, as if restraining himself, yet remained silent. Since I entered college, I never took a single cent from any of you. Quite the opposite. I paid bills, financed renovations, helped Fernando and Patricia move into the house I bought, and renovated myself. All of this because I believed it was my duty to support my family. And now you think it's fair to kick me out to give my room to a stranger? Patricia began to stammer, trying to justify herself. "Lucia, it's not like that. We just wanted to accommodate Clara. It's not a permanent decision." I shook my head, laughing ironically. "Not like that. You threw my things in the yard as if they were trash. And now you want me to believe it's just temporary accommodation? You've already decided that I don't have a place here. And do you know what's most painful? This isn't the first time you've treated me like I'm disposable." My mother, with tears in her eyes, tried to reach for my hand. "Daughter, you're overreacting." I gently but firmly pushed her hand away, no longer willing to accept that false affection. "I'm not overreacting, Mom. Since I was little, everything I did was extra. I was never a priority. Fernando was always the center of everything. Special food, treats, attention. I only gained any kind of value to you when I started contributing financially. Until then, I was just an afterthought, something you tolerated because you had no other choice." Fernando finally lifted his head and, with a defensive tone, said, "You're making this into a big drama. We've always had a good relationship, Lucia. You chose to help. No one forced you." I shook my head, the anger simmering beneath the surface. "Oh, I chose? How convenient, isn't it? Because if I hadn't chosen to help, you'd surely be complaining about how ungrateful and selfish I was." "Fine, Fernando.
Now I really am choosing.
I'm choosing to stop supporting all of you." Shock crossed each of their faces, but I continued, unwavering. "You know that house you're living in? It's mine. From today on, I want you to vacate it. I'll rent it to someone who values what they have. As for all of you, you'll need to find a place on your own. I hope everyone here, including you, Dad and Mom, understands what it means to live without depending on anyone." Patricia let out a nervous laugh, as if she thought I was joking. "You can't do that, Lucia. That would be cruelty." I smiled coldly. "Cruelty? Cruelty is using my effort, my money, and then acting as if I'm an intruder in my own home. Cruelty is making me feel like a burden when, in reality, all of you have been living off me." And, turning to Clara, who was watching everything with wide eyes, I added, "I hope your stay is worth it. Because it cost more than just a room. It cost a family." Raul, my father, tried to stand and intervene, but I raised my hand to stop him. "I'm done, Dad. I'm done sacrificing myself for people who discard me as soon as something better comes along. So, Now it's your turn to make sacrifices. You all have a month to vacate the house." With each word, I felt the weight of years of hurt and resentment leaving me. I knew there was no going back, that this was a final decision. As I began to walk towards the door, my mother tried to call out to me in a pleading tone, "Lucia, please don't go. We can talk, resolve this another way." I stopped and looked at her for a moment. "You've already had every opportunity to resolve this in a fair way. I did everything I could to be a contributing daughter and sister, to take care of everyone. Now I need to take care of myself." I left their house feeling a mix of sadness and freedom. I knew it wouldn't be easy to sever ties with people who, despite everything, were my family. But I also knew that, in the end, it was the best decision for me. As I left that house, I felt the weight of years of resentment slowly dissipating. I knew that confrontation wasn't the end. They would still fight back, accuse me, and try to manipulate the situation. But at that moment, as the cold night wind hit me, one thing was clear. For the first time, I was free from their expectations and dependence. In the days that followed, my decision to ask for the house back was met with a mix of indignation and desperation for my family. My phone didn't stop ringing, and each message from them was a blend of guilt-tripping and emotional blackmail, as if I were the villain for wanting what was mine. My mother, in particular, sent long, bitter texts saying I was tearing the family apart and that she'd never imagined my ambition would go this far. Ambition? It was surreal. They'd spent so many years living off my efforts, and now, when I decided to think about myself, I was labeled as selfish. I read their messages and just sighed because, as much as it hurt, my decision was made. My days of submission were over. To expedite the process, I sent a formal notice through a lawyer requesting that they vacate the property within 30 days. That document was the final blow. My father and brother appeared at my door, demanding to talk. When I saw them there, their expressions full of accusations, I invited them in, willing to hear what they had to say. As soon as they sat down, my father, without preamble, started calling me ungrateful, recalling every minor sacrifice they'd supposedly made for me as a child. "And now you want to throw us out of the house?" he asked, eyes blazing with anger and desperation. I took a deep breath, trying not to let my emotions get the best of me. "Dad, the house is mine. You're there because I allowed you to stay. All these years, I've been the one supporting this family, paying the bills, doing everything so that you could live well. And yet you chose someone else, someone who isn't even family, to take my place. What did you expect me to do? Bow my head again?" My brother intervened, his gaze cold and calculating, as if he were preparing a strategy to make me give in. "Don't you think you're overreacting, Lucia? After all, it's just a room. Why all the drama?" I laughed with disdain. "Just a room? If it were truly just a room, you would have given yours to Clara.
But no.
You chose to take mine, humiliate me, throw my things in the yard as if I were a stranger. It's not about the room. It's about the respect you've never given me." My father insisted that I was putting money above family and that I should forgive them. But I wasn't willing to forgive. "I'm done giving without receiving anything in return. And now, you're going to learn what it means to live without depending on me." They tried to argue, but I held my ground. It was decided. When they finally accepted that I wouldn't relent, they fell silent. I stood and gestured toward the door, signaling that the conversation was over. "You have 30 days to vacate the property," I said calmly, leaving no room for negotiation. They left, knowing that my decision was final. The following days were filled with desperate attempts from my family to make me change my mind. My mother tried to manipulate me emotionally, sending messages saying I was insensitive and ungrateful. Fernando and Patricia played the old family is everything card, accusing me of destroying their childhood home, conveniently ignoring that I was the one who kept that home running. With every message I received, my heart hardened even more. I remembered all the times I sacrificed, denied my own desires and needs so they could live comfortably. The truth was they'd never truly valued me. To them, I'd always been the daughter who provided support but never the one they would make sacrifices for. By the 25th day, Fernando and Patricia hadn't shown any signs of preparing to move. I realized they were betting that I would back down, that I wouldn't have the courage to take more drastic measures. I decided it was time to act. On the morning of the 26th day, I went to the house and found Patricia in the garden, watering plants I had bought. She looked at me with a smug expression, perhaps thinking I was there to give up. I smiled coldly and said, "Patricia, I'm here to check if you've started packing your things. The deadline is approaching." She shrugged, feigning indifference. "You're not really going to kick us out, Lucia. Do you think you could?" I stepped closer, not breaking eye contact. "I've already made the decision, Patricia. If you're not out in 4 days, I'll have to take legal action." She scoffed but said nothing more. As I walked away, I saw in her eyes the realization that I was serious. In the remaining days, I stayed in touch with my lawyer, who assured me that if they didn't leave voluntarily, I could file for immediate eviction. On the 30th day, I returned to the house with the lawyer, ready to settle everything once and for all. This time, the whole family was gathered in the living room, a mix of anger and resignation on their faces. The lawyer formally explained that if they didn't vacate the house that very day, he would file for an eviction order, which could lead to additional costs and complications for them. My mother started crying while my father looked defeated. Fernando and Patricia, on the other hand, didn't hide the hatred they felt. But that no longer affected me. After much back and forth, they finally started packing. I watched my parents leave with somber expressions, and Fernando and Patricia shot me looks of contempt as they left, as if I were the villain in a tragedy they had created themselves. But I didn't care anymore. For years, I'd been the forgotten hero, the one who held everything together without receiving anything in return. Now it was my turn to take care of myself. As soon as they left, I walked into the house and felt the silence envelop every corner. For the first time in years, that house was truly mine. I walked through each room, rediscovering the details, thinking about how I would renovate it to reflect the life I truly wanted to live. My family had used me and belittled me, but now I had broken free from all of that. And, for the first time, I felt truly at peace.